hopefully this is all working, and I'm not going to find out when I go back and watch this a couple hours that there was no audio. But all right, so the long and short of why I've put the teams together for you guys the way that they are is to take advantage of the only mechanic that really works in this Raid 10 Extreme. Beyond, obviously, Leia can use everything and just, do GL things. And that mechanic is the one that I keep calling IEM. IEM standing for Imperial Trooper Evasion Mechanic, or Evasive Maneuvers, which is the specific skill. The reason this mechanic is so important is because it takes advantage of an Imperial Trooper's ability to stack damage, because each time they do a basic attack, they will do their base damage, and base damage is determined by relic level and mods and leaderships and what your damage stats are. I think Piet does like 20 base damage. We'll check it here. And then they will add on to that damage the number of stacks of evasion they have amongst the entire team. When they use that basic, they will drop those stacks of evasion off of themselves. But other allies that are not Imperial Trooper units retain those stacks of evasion. And they continue to stack as we use more abilities that add more evasion, and that's how Imperial Troopers start hitting for high numbers and one-shotting the opponents. So I'm just going to show that. I'm not going to actually pick a team that I use here. I'm going to pick all characters that represent the abilities that have evasion up, just to show what you want to focus on in terms of priority order and why teams are built the way they are. So there are 3 characters that have like the 2 best abilities, and then a couple characters that have the next 2 best abilities baked into the same kit. So here's what I mean. So Akbar is one of the All-Stars, and Chirp is one of the All-Stars. Sorry, dang it. Did not want Chirpa. Chirpa and Akbar have the exact same 2 skills. There's 4 skills I want to show you guys. It's Nisa I meant to grab. Nisa and Wicket share the same 2 skills. Try this again. Alright. Throw Piet in as an Imperial Trooper. Throw Akbar in, or Chirpa, doesn't matter. And then Nisa. Alright. Like I said, this isn't a real team. I mean, it could be, but it's not going to be for now. This is just to show these IM mechanics. So what's happening right here is that we got our stacks of damage, we got our stacks of shield, they've got their stacks of damage. This green arrow up, that's the main one. That's the main ability we want to use, because it's going to add stacks of evasion. I believe it adds 4 to everyone. So, boom, there you go. Stack of evasion, 4 across the board. Now, so that's the number 1 best skill. These are best skills number 3 and 4. This one, Open Fire, it does AoE damage, but more importantly, she is going to gain a stack of evasion on herself. So go ahead and do that. So she's up to 5, they're still at 4. Chirpa is great because he has the number 1 and number 2 best evasion adding skills in Evasive Maneuvers, which we already showed on Piet, and then Hasty Repairs. Evasive Maneuvers is going to add stacks of evasion on everyone, as will Hasty Repairs. I think Hasty Repairs, though, only adds 3 stacks of evasion, as opposed to Evasive Maneuvers, which adds 4. I'm going to go ahead and do Hasty Repairs now, even though that's not how you would play this, just to double check that number. So we should see 7, 7, and 8. Boom, there we go. Alright, so now we're back to Piet's turn. So now here's where the total math adds up. And all this gets complicated in the service because we've got all these stupid icons up here that are really just a distraction, when all we're really needing to do is just simple arithmetic converting between evasion and damage. So when Piet does this basic, I'm pretty sure his basic hits for 20. He's going to get 7 more from his own evasion, 7 more from Chirpa's, and 8 more. So let's see, what, 35, 42? Am I doing the math right? So when this is done, this trooper should be left with 18. There you go. And then you see that Chirpa and Nisa still have their stacks of evasion. Piet lost his. So then this final skill that we haven't used yet is going to, again, gain stacks of evasion. It's a single target damage, and it's just on Nisa. So she's going to go up to, I think this one maybe gives her 2. Yep, there we go. So she's got 2. And now we can get into more mechanics like when we run through your guys' teams and Ustream and stuff, but Piet could kill this guy off easily. Obviously, he's only got 6 left, but let's test the damage again. I could add 4 more stacks of evasion here, but again, just to show the math, Piet's going to do 20. He's got no stacks of evasion on himself that he would drop, so we're just adding the extra 17 from the combined of these two. So we're looking at 37 damage, so this is going to be left with 23, right? Am I doing math correct? Yeah, there we go. That is the long and short of IEM, Imperial Trooper Evasive Maneuvers. Any questions there? Anything else I should run through before I move on to the Rebel mechanic? Okay. Let's drop this out of this battle then. And I can't, let me go back and look at your team. Well, we'll look at yours when we go there in a second, but for people that are watching this, somebody will have a full Rebel team, so it'll help regardless. Rebels is the only other really good mechanic to use. It's not nearly as good, but it does work, because most people, you'll use it because most people have JKL and like cracks up there. And neither one of them have any use as far as adding evasive maneuvers. You know what, I'll just throw in one more Rebel. That Chewie's also useless as far as adding anything to Imperial Trooper teams. The only thing these guys are good for in an Imperial Trooper team is if there's someone else to give stacks of evasion across the board, then these guys just act as another bucket to hold stacks of evasion as a non-Imperial Trooper unit. Does that make sense? Cool. So when we're not using an IEM mechanic and we're using this all Rebel mechanic, it's easy because it's all basics. And I'll show you why that happens. The maximizing your score comes in the last wave. Here, we can actually, you know what? Here, I'll just run. This is my normal. This is a normal tier 5 run for me, except to make it easy, I always just pop slicker mods on them. Because his mods are garbage. Could probably make it easier by putting JKL mods on, but it really wouldn't make that, or different mods on JKL, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. Alright, so the mechanic here is to just use basics until you get to the last wave, and then you kind of bounce back and forth. And this bounce back, this will kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because this playing the enrage timer at the end, you kind of want to do it for all your teams as well, regardless of which mechanic you're using to try and maximize your score. Except for the lay of battle, that's all just follow a set of steps and you win. Okay, so we're going to ignore every ability except basic. The reason is the mechanic for Rebels is when they use their basic, it heals them, and it adds on stacks of damage. But when they are already at a max of 50 stacks of damage, it then adds on this extra damage called shield. There's no difference between the two. They come off in the same way incrementally, but for some reason at 50, CG decides it's now shield. So what happens is every time they use that basic, boom, you see that number going up because they're both at 50. So it gets stupid easy because any Rebel battle, you can just run on full auto basic. So here we go. I'm just going to run it till full auto, on full auto. And what I'm watching is just the enrage timer. The enrage timer goes up based off of number of turns taken by enemies and allies, as well as then it jumps up a lot based off of allied death. The higher point giving, sorry, not allied death, enemy death. The higher point giving enemies, like Shadow and Scout Troopers, will add more to the enrage timer. That also reminds me of one thing I didn't mention, the IM mechanic. Why are we focusing just those skills and ignoring the rest? These other skills, first of all, they don't add any stacks of evasion when we're doing IM. And what a lot of these other skills will do is add stacks of jam. Jam is a mechanic that will actually lower the difficulty of the enemies in the incoming waves. We don't want that, actually. We want the hardest enemies. We want the Shadow Scout Trooper and the Scout Trooper Commando, because they give us the most points. So, unless you're doing the Leia battle, jam is completely ignored. There's supposed to be an interaction between jam and this other mechanic up here, timber. If I can click on this guy. There we go. There's supposed to be an interaction between jam and timber in the same way there's an interaction between trooper damage and evasion. I think there's supposed to be a similar thing between sideswipe and distract. They are either bugged or they just don't work to the same effect. That's why all this junk gets ignored. Sorry, do you have a question? Okay. Sorry, I feel like I was doing pretty well, and now I'm jumping all over the place. Okay, yeah, we were just talking about the enrage timer. So let's just go back to auto basic. You'll see it'll jump up more here when this Shadow Scout Trooper dies. I think it'll, whatever it's at, I think it adds like 11%. It may change by tier, but we're on tier 5. Let's see, that went from 54 to 46, I think, so 12. So when it starts getting to around the 80% mark is generally where I'll take it off auto. But you can see like 103 stacks of shield, 59 stacks of shield. So, I mean, it's just, the point is, what you're hoping for is you can time it with the enrage timer so that when you do hit the enrage, they possibly can survive through another round of getting blasted and score you a little bit higher. So what's going to happen here is, like, so if we're at 85% now in the enrage, the Shadow Scout Trooper, if I kill him off, he's going to go, that's going to bump us up. Well, by the time he's dead, we're probably going to be close to 90% anyways. So as soon as we kill him, we're going to be at enrage, which means this guy over here, Scout Trooper Commando, is just going to wipe the board with everyone. So we want to actually take these guys' health down really low. We'll be at close to 95, 99% enrage, but then we can pop them both in one hit. You'll kind of see what I mean here. So just gonna work him down. It's good to also know what these guys' base damage is. So we're 144. So Krex does 16 on his basic, and JKL 128. He does 20 on his basic. All right, so that's got me down within 16. So I'm gonna swap over here. You can see we're already at the 90% just because it's adding on a little bit of time just from all the turns being taken. I'm going to go ahead and hit him one more time since that's not going to kill him. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hit him since that's not going to kill him. Alright, so now whoever I hit, someone's going to die. So I'm going to take the bigger one first, but that's going to put us straight into enrage. That's fine. We got all these stacks of shield. Now you see how hard he's hitting, right? And then all it takes is going to take is one hit. Boom, he's gone. 1.176. That's basically where this run always ends for me. I'm not going to kill either of these guys off before they nuke me out. Unfortunately, there's not enough shield stacked up. But that's the long and short of both how the Rebel mechanic works to stack shield. With lower tiers and lower Rebel teams, you might be able to, and with 3 characters, you might be able to have enough stacks of shield across the board that you can survive and maybe get one more guy down in the next wave. Everybody's gonna be a little different between all the factors of modding and what. Right, that is basically my best score, but I don't know. I'll come back and play with it later. Correct.